Mark, you'll remember we were speaking about Welsh whiskey last week, yeah?
We were indeed, yes.
Well, I'm grateful to Rich, who sent us an email, and he says, "Gents, perhaps I should send you a couple of drams of Welsh whiskey for you to try. Diolch, I'm sorry for the mispronunciation, Rich, Diolch, but that's from Rich from Penderyn Distillery. How about that?"
Oh, there you go. They're listening.
I think it's interesting that, we mention product one day and we are offered it the next. I think that's encouraging on a week when I need a new pair of trainers. I'm just joking. I'm James Matthews.
And I'm Mark Stone.
I'm back in Washington, D.C. after a busy few days in Orem, Utah, covering the assassination of Charlie Kirk, conservative activist and influencer.
Yes, and I've just arrived in the UK, just landed in London ahead of Donald Trump's state visit. And it is set to be a moment, I think, of real significance, politically, economically, diplomatically, but perhaps culturally as well. We will get into it all.
Yeah, we'll look at the state visit and bring you the latest on Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old arrested following Charlie Kirk's assassination. Still very much the main story on this side of the Atlantic. Who is he? What was his motivation? And what happens now?
Plus, I've been speaking to an undocumented immigrant in Trump's America who is too scared to leave her home. She is one of many, and our conversation taught me a few things I didn't know, the nuances and challenges of immigration. We'll get into it all.
Yeah, Mark, we'll get the latest on Charlie Kirk in a bit, but to the pomp and circumstance first. The King and the President will provide the spectacle back in the old country, but there are, of course, so many strands and subplots to Trump's state visit. No Peter Mandelson, of course, but his spirit lives on. So does that story. The new Foreign Secretary.
I tell you what, James, he and Keir Starmer, like being over here. The whole Mandelson story is a much bigger story here now. I think Starmer is in big time, quite a bit of trouble. But we'll see how it rumbles through the state visit.
I was half expecting you to be on the same flight back to London as him.
He's still in Washington, I think. I think he's got a week to leave. So if I were you, I'd stake out that embassy.
Still a job for me then. I did tell you about the actually trying to find him in the eye of the storm. Yeah, did I tell you the story about Mount Vernon?
No, tell me.
Well, the day it all broke, clearly we did the story before it was famous, but when it was all hitting the fan, we had a tip that there was an embassy vehicle, ambassador style, heading somewhere. We eventually found out it was at Mount Vernon, birthplace of George Washington. This was the morning after Mandelson had been busy, actually. He was welcoming John Swinney, Scottish First Minister.
So this is before he'd been fired?
This was a couple of days before.
Yeah.
So Mount Vernon, we went in, lovely spot on the banks of the Potomac, former home of George Washington, as I say, hung around a bit, and it became clear that there was going to be a ceremony in the grounds, and there was by George Washington's tomb, there was a wreath. So we thought, okay, and actually somebody said, we're expecting a dignitary in 15 minutes. So, of course, we're thinking, hello, British Embassy, ambassador-style vehicle, wreath, visiting dignitary. So, of course...
You thought James Matthews strikes again.
I'm getting my questions ready. The first would have been, what did you mean by yum yum when you sent that birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein? Anyway, so we're all primed and ready to go, seekers of the truth, and photographers all there as well. And sure enough, this golf cart comes up this dirt path, about half a dozen people on it, and we're ready, cameras rolling. And who do you think stepped out of the golf cart?
Well, I'm guessing it wasn't Peter Mandelson.
It was John Swinney, First Minister of Scotland.
Oh, dear.
So there you go, the guest at the embassy. Later
on at the same day, he was with Peter Mandelson, just not at at Washington's home, but at Trump's home at the White House.
Indeed, okay. The doorsteps we might have had.
10 quid says that anecdote gets cut by the producers, James. But let's see. We will find out tomorrow.
There's every chance, don't you?
Where were we? You veered off. We were talking about the state visit.
Yeah. The new Foreign Secretary, of course, makes her debut proper. All about the first impressions for Yvette Cooper with the President in town and, of course, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. It's not been the easiest run-up for Keir Starmer, has it, Mark? The Mandelson affair does rumble on, and We had the scenes in London at the weekend, a Unite the Kingdom rally with a US dimension, of course, Elon Musk by video link, telling the crowd the UK needs a change of government, fight back or die, he told them.
Yeah, I mean that protest at the weekend, it was huge. Look, I think this state visit, James, comes at a fascinating time for the UK and for America, politically, but also culturally, kind of socially as well. When Keir Starmer pulled that letter from his pocket from the King for Donald Trump in the Oval Office back in February, it was literally his trump card. And it was Keir Starmer's attempt to pull the American president in, to flatter him, to flutter his feathers. And I think the judgment back then from the British government was that this would help keep this unpredictable president on side. And to an extent, it really has helped. While Starmer and Trump are by no means close politically, Trump has said many times how he really likes Keir Starmer. He thinks that they get on very well. The trade negotiations, we all know how well they appear to have gone. Britain seems to be the envy of many other countries. But then, I was watching the Reform Party conference last week, and it reminded me in tone, in messaging, and in merchandise as well, of MAGA, of Trump's movement. And I was watching the Unite the Kingdom protest at the weekend. Supporters of reform and parties further to the right were at that protest, of course. They made up that protest, Tommy Robinson and all of that. And it made me think, James, that, if these people were in America, they would be MAGA. They would be supporters of President Trump with the same concerns about immigration, about identity, about wokeness, about the erosion as they see it of Britishness. And so I think that is kind of quite an awkward backdrop. You've got Keir Starmer coming out to flatter Donald Trump at a time when he is under such enormous pressure from people who are politically aligned, socially aligned with Donald Trump. It's a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah, they are not soulmates, are they? Far from it. I said, Mark, in a recent podcast that there is this received wisdom within the White House across MAGA politics that there's a problem with free speech in the UK. Now, JD Vance and others have made that very clear publicly, of course. But I remember being in the Oval Office, when they were signing the trade deal. Trump was asked by a journalist standing beside me about the problem of free speech in the UK, which was a bit of a head turner at the time, actually. But, interestingly, in his answer, he didn't dismiss that notion. Also, in the same place, he made a wisecrack about the gay US politician Pete Buttigieg and his husband. All this with Peter Mandelson, a gay man standing next to him. And it was just a very awkward dynamic at that time. For all the positives, I think, in the current US-UK relationship, there's a disdain that travels with the Trump administration, and Starmer will have to manage that, all in a context of, playing to a different audience in the UK than the one that he played to here when he pulled out the invitation in the Oval Office. That gushing warmth and respect for this US president that was applauded here. People in the UK view that differently from Americans.
Yeah, James, on that point about free speech, I'm looking forward to listening to what Donald Trump's speech is going to be at the state dinner in Windsor on Wednesday night. He's going to be speaking just after the King, as is customary. But what will the tone of his speech be? Will it be just platitudes or niceties, or will he actually say something that is a bit controversial? He's a man who likes to be controversial. So let's see how that plays out. That's the first point at which we're going to hear, I think, from President Trump Wednesday night, and then again on Thursday. But the day is going to begin Tuesday evening when Donald Trump lands, and then on Wednesday it all kicks off with this the pomp, all the King's horses, all the King's men at Windsor Castle, not at Buckingham Palace because it's being renovated. So everything has been moved to Windsor Castle, which I actually think is probably from a logistical point of view and perhaps a security point of view as well. That's kind of good news for the organisers, because they can isolate Windsor rather more easily than they can the area around Buckingham Palace. So that'll be a little easier for them. There's bound to be horse-drawn carriages. I think we'll see all of that. Anyone who watched Emmanuel Macron's state visit a few a month or so ago. It'll be like that, but on steroids, I think. There'll be a mini Trooping the Colour in the quadrangle of Windsor Castle. All of that. That's Wednesday. Wednesday night, he stays in the King's Gaff at Windsor Castle. And then Thursday, he heads to Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence, where he and Keir Starmer will... The expectation is do a bit of business, trade deals, or building on that trade arrangement, AI deals, tech deals, that's the sort of thing. So it's more than just pomp. There is some substance to this. I think the Brits are obviously very keen that at the end of this, there is something to announce. Whether there will be or not, I don't know. Remember, Peter Mandelson was at the heart of this process, this planning, trying to get deliverables at the end of it. He's now out, but there is an interim ambassador, James Roscoe, who will be front and centre of it all, I think, over the week ahead, and he's got one heck of a job ahead of him. It's going to be quite a big first task for him.
And James Roscoe certainly fits the bill.
You know, they will just be hoping that nothing goes wrong, that it all happens smoothly. Unfortunately, it's going to rain throughout the week. It's going to be absolutely pissing it down. So that's going to put a bit of a dampener on it.
And that's going to mess his hair.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. You know what I'm looking forward to, Mark, is just that interaction between King and President. Who can forget the last time Donald Trump was on a state visit in Windsor, inspecting the guard in the company of the Queen, and of course, it all went very awkward, didn't it? He stepped in front of Her Majesty, and she had to kind of mention it to him. Then he stopped. Then she had to give him a body swerve. And of course, you know, it lit up social media. I'm not entirely sure whether he breached protocol. There was a lot of discussion around that, but didn't look good.
It looked bad, and he did walk in front of her. He basically didn't do what she told him. The way these things work is that you know, beforehand, he will be briefed on what he should do. You know, Mr. President, you're going to walk alongside the King or the Queen as it was, the King as it is. You're going to go and inspect the guard. So you've got to walk down the row of guardsmen, and you've got to look interested, and you've got to look like you're looking at them and literally inspecting them. He then didn't quite do that, and he wasn't close up to them. He was walking further out. She tried to sort of say to him, look, you need to move over a bit, and he didn't. And then he ended up, from the way the camera angle was, he ended up walking right in front of her. So it was basically President wasn't listening to what he's supposed to do. Let's hope he's listened this time.
Yeah, as one US correspondent coined it, it was like he was walking the golf course.
So, James, since we were last together, the hunt for the principal suspect responsible for Charlie Kirk's death has ended. They have got someone, and clearly now an avalanche of speculation as to what the motive might have been.
Yes, Mark, much speculation, of course, none of it necessarily helpful. It was Friday morning when news of the arrest was announced. Donald Trump, of course, broke it on breakfast TV news. And then we had the confirmation from the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, who told us the man in custody is Tyler Robinson, 22 years old, from Washington County in Utah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
I was at that news conference, Mark, and, you know, inside that university where the shooting had taken place, there was clearly an air of relief. The questions, of course, quickly turned to, who is this guy? Who's been arrested? What made him do it? And, of course, cue speculation, misinformation, different agendas being punted across social media. We will have hard information, more of it, on Tuesday when the charges are filed against Tyler Robinson. Governor Spencer Cox, well, he's given some detail today about the suspect. He told CNN in an interview that family members had told of how Robinson was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. He said that Robinson lived with a transgender partner, that the FBI confirmed his roommate was a romantic partner, as he put it, a male transitioning to female, and he agreed that that part of Robinson's life was being looked at as possible motivation. That roommate has, we're told, been incredibly cooperative was the phrase he used in terms of furthering the investigation, answering questions. You'll remember that Charlie Kirk, in the immediate moments before he was shot, he was asked about the number of shooters in America who'd identified as transgender. At the time, he replied saying, too many. And Kirk previously had called a trans person an abomination to God.
Of course, we don't know anything at the moment for sure behind all this speculation. We don't have any detail about the motive, the intentions. And of course, no one is guilty unless and until they have been found to be such. But I do think this represents a moment that's dangerous, maybe uniquely so. The right and the left in America are riled, they're angry, they're frightened, I think, too, about what next. And there have been calls for retribution on social media, of course. But it seems to me, James, that there's kind of no one in any position of power trying to pull people back together. There's no unifier. And I think that's kind of uniquely worrying. There's no unifier on the right or, it seems, on the left. The immediate focus, of course, for now is the investigation and the funeral. We're not sure yet when that will be, but it will be in Arizona, where Charlie and his wife, Erica, lived with their 2 young children. I imagine many of the administration, including the president himself, will be there at that funeral. And Erica Kirk spoke publicly for the first time on Friday night, I think speaking, yes, to the media, but more broadly as well. It was a live streamed speech.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country.
She's clearly a wife and a mother in deep, deep grief, but those words will be heard far and wide. And so too will these comments from President Trump on Fox News at the weekend.
We have radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less.
James, I don't know about you, but as an observer, I found those comments to be deeply worrying from the president, a leader who appears not to be worried about bringing the country together.
Exactly, yeah, not a leader in unity, which, America's been in a dark place in the past many times, and there has been a call for unity, restraint from the top, from the president down, an understanding across society that America shouldn't be in this place and that things need to get better before they get worse, because they could get far worse. We have seen, a degree of reaction that's urged restraint, mature reflection, warnings of the abyss that, this could all lead to. The difficulty, I think, Mark, is the number of people who filter that out. They filter out the peaceful message. People who view politics as an ideological war through the prism of us against them, where politics isn't a discussion for mutual benefit, but conflict. And almost a new normal here with violence as an option. And they are not discouraged from that by the words of Donald Trump.
But also, you say they may filter it out. They may also never even hear it because America is so siloed. They're all listening to their own echo chambers. So they may not hear the moderate calls for restraint, even if they were willing to listen to them.
It's interesting and worrying, what we've heard from opinion formers, not just Donald Trump, but people like White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. He's on record as calling the Democratic Party a domestic extremist organization. And all of that, of course, is before you get to social media screaming a call to arms. The algorithm of politics in this country presents it as conflict. There is eyeballs, there is an audience for that. And there's enough people who will think violence is a reasonable response, who look at Charlie Kirk and think of retribution on similar terms. I spoke to a congressman today, and he, I thought, put it well. He said, the trouble in America right now is that we've forgotten how to disagree in a productive way.
James, You spent a bit of time, or certainly in a few news conferences, with the governor of Utah over the past few days, a Republican. I was fascinated by him, because, a Republican, but not a fan of Trump. He didn't vote for him in 2016, didn't vote for him in 2020, appears to have come a bit closer and a bit closer to Trump over the last election. But I found him to be very eloquent. His words, what he said about social media, what he said about, hugging people closer, touch the grass, don't go on social media. Powerful stuff, I thought.
Yeah, interesting character, very measured, coped very well with media demands and, a wide range of questions that might have led him in to the kind of speculation and conspiracy that is everywhere else. He tread a very neutral, fact-based path, which I think is to his credit. But I think the governor has clearly recognized the danger of how this could develop in a very dark way. He spoke about a turning point, about the direction in which people could choose to turn. And, he just spoke about the importance of, actually, to use his phrase, putting the phone down. He cited Charlie Kirk when he said, there is a time to put the phone down and just think about what lies beyond that. Of course, when he invokes Charlie Kirk, there is much of the audience for that who would say, well, hang on a minute. Charlie Kirk was a man who spoke the language of hate. So there is perhaps, for many people, a weakness in that. But certainly Spencer Cox, the governor, he spoke well. He said that America has a choice.
I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. This is our moment. Do we escalate, or do we find an off-ramp? And again, it's a choice. It's a choice, and every one of us gets to make that choice.
Spencer Cox there, governor of Utah, one to watch, maybe. Now, James, before we go, we published my story over the weekend about an undocumented immigrant living in America. This is something that was kind of a follow-up to a report we did a couple of weeks ago that you all may remember, which was when we saw undocumented migrants being rounded up by ICE agents in Washington, taken into the back of trucks and driven off. That was a kind of a really sort of visceral reminder of what's going on across America as Donald Trump tries to get to grips with the immigration crisis in his way, with his methods. What we wanted then to do was actually speak to one of these people who is in the firing line, someone who's in America illegally, who is undocumented, just to get a sense of A, how they're feeling, B, what they plan to do now. And what was so interesting for me, because obviously it took a while to get someone to have the courage to be able to speak on camera. Eventually we did. And it taught me a lot, or reminded me, I should say, James, a lot about who these people are, and their motivations for being here, how long they've been here, because the assumption might be that these are all folk who've just turned up, in the course of the past few years, that they're just kind of winging it, that they're just living off benefits and all the rest of it. Absolutely not. Have a listen to this woman. We're calling her Luce. She's in her 30s. She's a mum of a 6-year-old. She's got a husband also illegally here. He works in a bar and she works for a charity.
I've been in the U.S. for 17 years. I came here when I was 16 years old from Mexico. My goal was always to become a better version of myself, to be able to learn English. And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The American dream. My father had to, migrate to support his family. He did it because he wanted us to have an education, to have enough food, clothing, a safe house. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm afraid of going outside. I'm afraid of being detained. I'm afraid of, just for them to look at me and see me as a Latino woman, right? And being taken. I'm afraid of that.
And Mark, like many people in her position, Luce comes here, pays taxes, is in the United States as a contributor.
I've been able to, have an ID, to have health care, file taxes every year as a U.S. citizen does. And it's important for people to know that even though we're legally here or we don't have the proper documentation, we are able to interact and be part of the society and the community.
Yeah, and I think that for me, that was the most interesting bit of it. And I think something that lots of people don't, understandably, they just don't know about. But America as a society over many generations has enabled people like that to be in America. So although she is a classic economic migrant, she has not fled a war, she's not fled persecution. She's come to America simply for a better life. And although, yes, that it is perfectly right to say today, hang on a minute, we cannot take people who just want a better life. We can't take everyone. The fact is that up until this point, America has done that. And so for 16 years, this woman has lived in America. She's lived an American life. She's lived an American dream as far as she's concerned. And she has paid her taxes. She drives, so she's got an ID card. She's got a driving license. She gets a form of medical care as well. So she's wholly American in all but documents. And of course now, because of the direction America is going in, because it's chosen Donald Trump, who has said that anyone illegal in America will leave, she faces deportation. And I think, as you can hear from the tone of her voice, for her and for many, many other undocumented migrants across America who are not committing any crimes, but are here, their crime is that they're here illegally. It's a very worrying time.
Interesting stuff, Mark. As part of your coverage, you spoke to Tom Homan, the border czar, the man leading these immigration roundups.
Yeah, and he is a matter-of-fact guy. So I put her story to him, and his response, well, you can hear it, but his response is effectively, I don't really care. She's here illegally. She will go home. She's not a priority. The criminals are a priority. But if we come across her or anyone like her, she's out of here.
But they cheated the system, right? Because there's millions of people standing in line, taking their tests, doing their background investigation, paying their fees to be part of the greatest nation on earth. You're talking about people that cheated the system. No, it's not okay to be in this country legally.
And Luce and her family, at the moment at least, are planning to pack up and now head back to Mexico, a country she has kind of no affiliation with because she hasn't been there since she was a child. And you can catch that interview on all Sky News platforms. I'll post it on my social media as well, Stone_Sky News, Instagram and X. And we'll put a link in the show notes.
All right, Mark, you're going to be busy over the next few days. There'll be some Welsh whiskey at the end of it, though.
Well, there will be for me, but if the owners of Penderyn really were listening and really did email in, I don't think they're going to send you any, because I think you said that you'd like to drive your car with it.
Listen, sorry, Penderyn, sorry, Wales. If it's listen, I'm a huge fan of Wales. Don't worry about that. And if it's coming out of Wales, I'll be drinking it. But listen, you're going to be busy with not much sleep. Did I tell you about the day when I landed in Utah for the story? The day that Mandelson stepped down or was fired?
No, go on.
Well, it was my birthday, so I'd been for a mildly boozy lunch, was sleeping it off when I got the call. Got to Utah, 7-hour flight and more and the rest. Had to hit the ground running. Got to bed at 3. Was going to set my alarm for 5. So fell asleep. I got a text 15 minutes in. My daughter, Mandelson's gone. Back to sleep. 15 minutes later, another text, one of my five-a-side pals. Wow, Mandy, ! Went back to sleep. 15 minutes later, another text. What do you think it said?
Mandy's gone.
APD, your parcel will arrive between 8 and 12 today. Oh, that's journalism.
Oh, dear.
So listen, Mark, good luck. Hope you get some sleep. You're going to be working hard.
Yeah, but don't forget, we'll be in your feeds. We're doing a podcast episode every day this week. Bye-bye for now.
Yeah, all the best.